brewed maroon tea with tree bark and dried gooseberries. She made poultices from leaves, herbs, and scraps of cloth, and if someone had a fever she burned dry grass and brushed smoke over their heads, muttering spells using Algonquin and Irish words that no one, not even herself, really understood. In the old priest's house, the children were learning table manners and geometry, as well as the waltz, and absorbing a way of seeing the world as a mystery, layered, rich. The old priest, Father Jeremiah Lillis, S.J., was a New York Irishman, short, barrel-chested, and nearly 70 when he came into the Pontiac. The remote parish was his first pastoral appointment. Before banishment to Canada, he had been a scholar, a teacher, a dreamer. He had been sent into exile after it came to the attention of his superiors that certain funds belonging to the New York house were missing. In fact, the old man had given away the order's money as well as his own to various men and women whom he loved. For these sins, and a few others, he had been dispatched to the Pontiac. The stout little priest shaved infrequently, so the rasp of his cheek was always rough and sharp, and his breath smelled of cigars and sweet wine. Leading his partner, he would hum the melody, his shoes bussing the Tabriz carpet, building small static charges that sparkled at his fingertips. On the train north, leaving through the relations of Brebeuf and the other Jesuit martyrs, he had read of the 17th century black robes sent as missionaries into the same country, only to have their hearts eaten by Indians. By the time the train halted at the Canadian border, he was in tears and very tempted to disembark, but he had nowhere else to go. He had his trunks and crates and what remained of his collections of oil paintings and china, his table silver and beloved Persian carpets, but the Monsignor had sent him off without enough cash in his purse, even for a return ticket to New York. So he remained aboard the train and came eventually to his remote and lonely parish, Saint Jerome the Hermit, at Sheen, where he met Joe O Brien during that first awful northern summer of mosquitoes and forest fires, of air limned with smoke and smutted with cinders. The black-haired boy had come by the rectory selling firewood. "You'll want 9 cords, Father. What I have is mostly beech with some maple and birch and some pine, no spruce guaranteed, $4 a cord, bucked into 2-foot lengths, split, delivered, and stacked. You'll not get a better price." Later, the priest would decide that the young O'Briens and even their haggard mother had a strange, rough beauty. What was it about young Joe especially? The blackness, the pallor, the clear blue eyes? Was it the boy's gift for silence? On his own part, it wasn't lust. He had many times burned with lust, and he was done with it. At least he would never again confuse it with love. The priest was unpacking and shelving his books in the room he had decided to use for his study when Joe returned with a wagon and the first 2 cords. He began toting load after load of firewood up the rocky little path and into the woodshed using a canvas sling and a tump-line around his forehead. Father Lillis had thought himself the loneliest person in the world, but watching Joe at work, he decided that the black-haired boy, in his silence, in the ferocious way he drove himself, might be even lonelier. On his second day, Joe got his 2 younger brothers at work on the stacking, but he did most of the carrying himself, the tump-line taut on his brow, neck muscles supporting the weight, body bent and braced. As if he was struggling down Broadway, the old priest thought, in the maw of a wicked wind. He brought out a jug of lemonade and insisted that Joe pause long enough to take a glass. "Why so fast, lad? Now what's the rush? You're killing yourself." "It's easier to run than walk, Father." The old priest believed in the accessibility of the spirit world, though the dogma of his own religion was against it. In Paris, in New York, and once in Worcester, Massachusetts, he had visited the sage-scented candle-lit parlors of table-rapping mediums. It was wicked, and he risked burning in hell for his apostasy, but for much of his life he had been a